Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Marginal Support, where support is anything but marginal. I am your host, Andre Lindy, as always, and I have the wonderful and fabulous Rachel Wu with me today. So the way I know Rachel is that she was basically a de facto mentor for me when I worked at Iterable. So when I was there and I joined, I'd be bugging her nonstop. Hey, Rachel, how do I do this? Hey, Rachel, how do I do this? And she was very generous and very gracious in how she taught me how to do the role. So, Rachel, it is excellent to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Andre. It's so good to see you. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Wu. As Andre said, we work together, and I am so happy to be, kind of back again in like a professional context with you and just being able to chat. I got to catch up with you a couple weeks ago and just like learn about, just catch up, like what's been going on. And so thank you so much for thinking of me and having me here on your podcast.
Well, it's my pleasure. So obviously you don't work at Iterable these days because I saw your LinkedIn. So can you tell me, what are you doing these days?
Yeah, absolutely. I am currently at Retool, and I am the support engineering lead, senior manager of support engineering at Retool. And for those who don't know Retool, the way I say it, the way I said it when I first was telling people about it is we help technical teams build internal tools. But it's not just that. We help anybody who is interested in building any app that's going to be helpful for them, their teams, for other people. And we are a platform that can help you do that.
That's great. So you basically
I need to work on that, honestly.
That sounded good to me. So what you're saying is that you can help them retool their workflow.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
So very good. Okay, great. So before we did this, we were talking about what would be a good topic to talk about. And I remember at Iterable, you were basically the person to create the Premier Support pretty much from scratch. You were the person that figured out the channel that they were going to use. I don't want to steal your thunder, so I'm going to let you talk about this. So
all good.
How did you basically create Premier Support at Iterable?
That's well, thank you for that incredible introduction. I will say I cannot take credit for actually creating the program. I inherited the program when it started growing to probably more than a certain size. So the Premier Support program at Iterable had already existed. It was created, I believe, by our boss and our previous and the VP of customer success at the time. It was something that like they knew was going to be needed in the market. And so they were like, hey, we know customers are going to want some sort of premium support. We know other competitors and companies out there have something like this, so let's build it. And so the way that it started, it was one of the offerings that they had for Premier Support was a named Premier Support agent to as the first person to go to, the point of contact for all of your technical questions, all of support. And they were assigned to this account, and that Premier Support agent had a whole book of business. And so that's how it started with one person, and it grew to 2 people, 3 people. And then by the time I joined I think I might have been the 3rd person, something like that. I can't remember. And then as the team grew, I started managing that team. So I went from a Premier Support agent myself to managing the support team, and really just continuing to evolve the program and evolving our support offerings in that way as well. So there were, it was like 3 tiers of support, and then, what are some things that we can have as add-ons and really add to that experience for customers.
So when you were doing this Premier Support, what did you see as the value add to having, a dedicated person? Not really dedicated, but a named person.
Named.
What was the value add to a customer where they had basically a single point of contact to go to?
So the value I always told customers was, have you ever written into support, and even if the support team is smaller, you ran it was possible you just talk to somebody different every time. And I remember there would actually be some customers that we talked to, like when we were tier 1 agents on chat, that they would have to be like, they would ask questions, we'd go into their account, And then we'd say, hey, but it looks like your account is like this. Are you sure you have this kind of an issue? And they'd be like, we've told you guys again and again that we have this like particular setting on our account. And that's why it looks the way it is. But I swear to you, we still have this problem. And so I think one of the best things when customers had a named person to go to with all their questions is that they remember all of this knowledge about this account. Like you don't have to say again, like, oh yeah, we told you this setting, this is how our account is set up. It's like, oh, you already know that. And so you don't have to repeat yourself. It saves you a lot of time. It's kind of like having a coworker working with you, but is the subject matter expert on this platform that you're using.
So
yeah,
I know the way the setup was done where you basically had a Slack channel for these people right here. Mm-hmm. What problems did you first encounter when you had Slack as, the main channel of communication versus when you were using chat or tickets where that was more traditional ticketing system? What were some of the biggest challenges you had, basically keeping track of everything when it's Slack and everything's coming in super fast?
Yeah. I think this would be from like the support person's perspective, right? Like how did my workflow change when I went from being in our support system of record, so Zendesk, to like, oh, now it's Zendesk and Slack. I gotta be honest with you, I liked it a lot better when I was working in Slack. I know everyone's going to be a little bit different. Everyone has their own workflows and their own like ways of working. And I think I just liked Slack a lot better because I liked having that like ping, and it was something I could turn my attention to and then just have a conversation right then and there. And it felt different from live chat because I kind of I could see people's profile pictures. I talk to them all the time. And I just know like, okay, I'm going to talk to John Smith. And I know that I've helped John Smith already with something related to this a week ago. And I'm going to talk to him about it now. We're going to get to the bottom of this. So I know there were some folks when they became Premier agents for the first time, it was really challenging because they were like, where do I live? Where do I go? And the way that the tickets came in, like you always have to track the tickets that you're working on. If you don't, it's just you don't know where your time goes as time disappears. So all of the Slack tickets that we had, or any of the tickets that we had that were open on Slack, we were able to send them into Zendesk. And Zendesk is our source of truth for all of our tickets. So for those who had trouble going back and forth and it wasn't as easy like I felt it was, they could theoretically just live in Zendesk once they were able to open the ticket, kick off the sync into Zendesk. So and Zendesk kind of was able to allow us to do that. It was a bi-directional sync. So whatever was spoken in Slack, sync to Zendesk. Whatever was added in Zendesk, sync to Slack. So yeah, it's just, especially as a support agent, you're taught to try to be as efficient as possible. So essentially you want to stay in one platform at a time. So I think that was a big challenge of being like, you're being pulled away from that one place you're supposed to live in.
One question I'm curious about is that, since it was a central location, you had all this information in Slack, right? There wasn't a lot of digging that needed to happen on either end. Did you ever see that everything living in Slack acted almost as a default ticket detergent, or it was a way to deflect tickets because people on the customer side could go through the old Slack channel and look for any question that had ever been asked?
So I think that is such a plus to having Slack channels, because I know there are options kind of like perhaps with an IT use case where you message a bot specifically, or you message an app, and then it's just basically a DM between you and this app. Like the other thing that would be like, oh, this is a benefit of customers who and so this Slack channel was also a benefit of what was on the premium Premier package. We can get into that after I share this, but the benefit of being able to have everything in a Slack channel is that it's an archive. It's a library of everything that has been asked and a lot of historical context on the account. So it's actually great for me or for the Premier agent, because you could search for things and see if anyone has ran into the issue before, especially when you can kind of tell in the language that this might not be the first time that this issue has happened. I will say for the customer, I would hope that it's a great library. I think it's supposed to be like a way to self-serve and kind of use as a knowledge base. But I think depending on who the person is like, and depending on the issue, it might not be the first thing they think about. But I think that's what support is. It's you meeting the customer where they are, right? And so if folks just need you right away and they need to talk to you, you're there if you need it. If they don't feel like talking to you, or maybe they know they only have like 5 or 10 minutes before a meeting, they can just see if this question has been asked before by anyone else in the channel. They can go look for it.
So one thing I want to go back to that you said just a little bit ago is that your Premier Support agents basically had a book of business, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And that's very CSM wordy right there. Where would you see was the kind of the overlap between your traditional support agent and then with a named support agent where they actually do have these accounts they have to focus on? How did that change their mindset now that they actually are, kind of responsible for these accounts and making sure that they're getting, the best service possible?
Sure. And you were saying this is from like the support person's perspective, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me back up a bit and just talk about what was Premier Support. Like what exactly was that, what it was for Iterable and kind of what makes it Premier. So at Iterable, we had 3 tiers of support: Standard, Plus, and Premier. Standard is whenever the standard package that you get when you sign a contract with Iterable. So you got support through email, and then your coverage hours were like 8 hours by 5 days a week. So whatever region or time zone you were in, whatever your hours were, that was how that was set. And then, the higher up in tier you go, the more coverage you have, the more channels of support are available to you, and so on. So Plus was everything on Standard. Plus, you got to contact support over live chat. So you got that included in there, which was a huge plus because rather than going on email, you could just talk to somebody you can beep, 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 chat with somebody there. And then your coverage hours also increased. So you went to 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then on Premier, you had all of that, and you got the additional Slack channel or MS Teams support channel to contact support. Then your coverage extended then to 24/7. So it didn't matter what time you wrote in, you were able to have coverage and take advantage of all the benefits below as well. Oh, and then you also got a named Premier Support agent who is usually a senior TSS. So that was also our promotion ladder too. Like you were a tier 1 agent, and then you were a Premier agent, and then you could get promoted to tier 2, or go whatever it is you wanted your career to go. You could go from there. So with that, if having a named Premier Support agent as part of a package on Premier, that meant you were assigned to someone, and just the way that we had it, because I know, and we can get into, I can noodle on this for a bit, but that meant that you were assigned to someone, and those folks had their own book of business because there was enough work from the accounts, and we had modeled it such that they would get all of their tickets and all the volume they were expected to solve from the accounts or their book of business. And so that relationship changes a little bit. I would tell the team that when they were a tier 1 agent, it was really about breadth. Like you spoke to, tens, hundreds of customers, and you ran into hundreds of use cases. You could probably tell which ones were the most like common questions, and all about breadth, like just talking to so many customers. And then when you were a Premier agent, it was about depth, because now you're not talking to hundreds of customers, tens of hundreds. You're just talking to like 10 to 15 customers and like the power users within those. And you get so far, like, of course these customers ranged from they were new to the platform to they've been a customer of Iterable for years. So you did still see the whole range of questions that folks have, but when you do work with a customer for a long time, the questions they have, you start digging deeper and deeper into their use cases. And you maybe some customers are really big, heavy, like mobile users, or they're really big on the mobile use case. So you had to learn mobile. Maybe not as many customers who are, when you interacted with them on tier 1, maybe they didn't have there weren't as many mobile cases, and you couldn't really, it was like, okay, one here or there. But you can't run from those when you're a premier agent working with your customers. So there was that really a change of when you now have a book of business is like this is the group of people, this is who you're working with, and so you really need to make sure you have a good relationship and build strong rapport with the customers that you're working with. You can't shy away from a challenge because you are the person that they are talking to, and yeah, I think that's really something that I really enjoyed as a premier support agent that I didn't get to in one of your earlier questions was a benefit was like I loved being able to build a relationship with customers. There were enough of them. There would be enough customers in your book of business that you're not talking to the like same exact people every day, day over day, week over week. Like there was still a good group of people, but you still knew them. Like you knew everyone by name, you knew everyone by their profile photo. You knew what emojis they like to use. You got to know, like, they were all shared Slack channels, so you knew what emojis existed in their Slack workspace. And so that was a huge part of it. Like, you really got to know these people that you work with. And unfortunately, when I was a premier agent, it was over COVID, so I couldn't join on-sites because you couldn't really go anywhere. But I would have absolutely loved to just be on site and be like, hi, you're real, I'm real, let's hug and let's solve these things together in person, because it's great talking to you over Slack, over Zoom, but let's really get into it in person. So yeah, that's kind of the difference is you're solving these cases, but you really get to build that human relationship.
So you've worked with enough people on the support team, both on the client side and on the support team side. What kind of people have you seen that really have really thrived in this premier support style, and what people have just tried and they said, this is actually not for me whatsoever?
Yeah, that is a great question. Because I think there is a difference. You can kind of see who can do well or not. I think those who really will thrive in the role are going to be those who really thrive off of relationships. And because they're not to say that you can't, if you're not empathetic, you're not going to be successful. Because I think as a support, if you're working in support, you have to have a level of empathy, or else you also just won't survive. You're really successful when you can feel the customer's pain and you want to help them solve the problem and succeed. But I think those who really did really well were those who were able to build that relationship and then have a passion for finding the answer. And I will call out, you don't need to have a bubbly, outgoing personality to be successful. There were definitely people on the team who they're not necessarily as outgoing, or they don't seem like they're outgoing, but they were exceptional, and people were obsessed with them. When they got promoted, the customers were they were sad, but they're you can't be mad at someone getting promoted, but they were oh my God. Definitely big shoes to fill for the person who was their backfill and took over for the account. So and really what makes these folks so special is that relationship, just the trust that they build. Are you able to build trust with these customers, with these people that you're going to be working with pretty closely? Do they trust you to understand their issue pretty quickly? So how quickly, what kind of questions can you ask to get to the root of what they're asking, what the root of the issue is, and can they trust you that you're going to get to a solution? Maybe not right away, but that you'll work really hard to communicate with them and get an answer. So, and on that note, it was also really good communication. I haven't forgotten about you. I'm just updating you on this, checking back in. I think those who also did very well would update their customers periodically or regularly about issues. I would tell people about the power and the positive impact of a no update. Hey, I don't have an update for you yet, but this is what we've gotten to so far. Or I don't have an update yet, but I'm gonna go ping this team once again and see if I can get an answer by the end of the day.
I think what you just said there is probably one of the greater examples of just being an effective support person also, is that if you can still give value when you're basically giving nothing, that really separates you from others. Because like you're saying, just having people feel like they're being heard,
100%.
It can go a long way. And definitely when you have a set book of business, I can see how important that is. One question I have though is that the kind of strain that this can put on people, because if you are the named person, then do you ever have people feeling this conflict, like they can't take a day off or they can't call in sick? Like, what challenges do people face when they are the named support, right?
100%. And I think that's the big challenge that I kind of wondered, like, can we evolve out of that? So the way that it worked at Iterable is every question from the customer by default routed to their named support agent. And that's just how it was. So, and if they weren't there, then we had the policy was if it was just 1 or 2 days, and they would go to chat. So that's how we were able to support premium customers 24/7. Like, obviously their named Premier Support agent's not going to be there 24/7, but they always had a 24/7 way to contact support. So if the person was out 1 or 2 days, okay, it's not that much. They'll be back soon. Go to chat. And then if it was longer than that, 3 days or more, then we had another Premier Support agent cover those accounts. So they would that book would be split amongst the rest of the folks in the region, and that is very stressful. It's very stressful. It's especially when an issue comes in and it's a P1, a P0. Your entire day, that person's entire day is now taken up by this issue, by this incident, and they feel, people would say they would feel horrible because then this one customer who, understandably and rightfully needs this time, needs this like effort. What about the other 14 accounts, 10 to 14 accounts? Like, they felt awful that they couldn't help those folks. And, I think in terms of taking time off, like, the world is going to go on whether or not you take time off. Like, they're going to get their questions answered whether or not you take time. So I try to make sure that, like, don't feel that pressure. I know you feel like you're a wonderful person. You're very empathetic. You're very responsible and ambitious, but like, you need to take this time off. And so I do, to kind of, I guess, to answer your question, like, I think they did feel pressure. And that was something I was like, is there another way that we could have done this? And I do know that some other companies, as I've met people and talked to more people, and I'd love to hear your ideas too of the people you've talked to. Like, are there ways that people have designed their support, their like named support offering such that it's not completely dependent on one person? And I can start. I know there's and I might be mixing up with these people that I talk to. So if you hear this out there, if you hear this use case and if I mix it up, I am so sorry. But I've seen it that, I've seen it that instead of one person that they're attached to, that the person is working on, that instead of one person that is assigned to the account, it's a group of people, but it's a much smaller group of people, such that like it's like 3 people that know the account, right? And then therefore it's not as stressful to have it be one person, because one person can just go out and just know that 2 people are left, like to handle that. And then and that volume is sort of accounted for. Like, it also really sucked when someone went out on PTO for 2 weeks, which is normal, but you're just like, oh my God, I have 5 extra accounts for 2 weeks. And then they go on PTO and they come back and like, the other person comes back and they're at 20 accounts for the next 2 weeks. It got really hard, and it got hard to approve PTO. So I don't know, any ideas you have?
I mean, you basically had the idea that I was thinking in my head, which is, you can call it case swarming or intelligence swarming, which is that where you have a group of people, and it's I think what some people see as maybe the evolution of tiers is that you're having SMEs in certain topics, and then those people are responsible for tickets, responsible for answers. So I think that is one of the better examples I've seen out there. This actually leads me into my next question for you, is that if you were going to recreate Premier Support from the ground up, what would you do different now that you've experienced it, where you've been an agent, you've been a leader in it? How would you change it?
Yeah, so actually the first thing that came into my head when I was talking earlier and what you were saying now was like, having a named person to talk to for all your questions is a great experience for the customer, but it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks for the person assigned, because of coverage. So basically coverage sucks. And so, okay, then what is the way to solve coverage is you don't have it necessarily tied to one person, right? I think I would experiment with a group of people. But obviously it takes a little while to be able to get to a group of people. So, another idea that I heard from someone was, rather like you would have a named person, but they were not the first person that all tickets were assigned to. It would still round robin between maybe a smaller group of people, like maybe others who have this like premium support role. But tickets kind of went through everyone, and it's just like, great, that's great, because then your tickets get assigned and they get worked on. But the team would be small enough such that if there was any legacy info, any account specific knowledge, that person would be there to be able to answer the question. And like help out, and I guess swarm in that way as well. So I think that's how I would do it. I would, instead of having so much onus on that one person, instead have it be a subject matter expert kind of a thing instead. So anything that essentially maybe you could escalate to that person, or like they would swarm and be involved. And then I think another thing that was beneficial for those who had Premiere at Iterable was like the support person would join any recurring customer calls for status updates and things like that. So essentially, a customer would have an account pod, right? They would have their CSM, whoever is managing their account. They would have, therefore, like if they had some other resource available for them, like someone in solutions, like some sort of architect on the account, they would also be there. And then if their premium support person was there too, then it's just like they got everything. And all these people that were, oh my.
That was me.
Yeah. Also, did I drop something? But yeah, so you had all these people with, their role specialties in different domains just around being there to support the customer. So I think, and then that was also great, was not only did you build a strong relationship with the customer as a premium support agent, you also built a strong relationship with the account pod too, because it wasn't just you working on the account, it was also you got to be with your CSM, like that account manager, you got to be with your solutions architect, and they would all you would all internally sync on like what had happened and things like that. So one thing again that was difficult too for the way that it was designed at the time at Iterable, just like there's a lot of work for a premium account, especially when you are involved regularly with these customers. So it's like, in order to be really to really have this be a beneficial, like a fruitful conversation with a customer, like you need to know what you worked with your customer on, right? So you needed to have like data available to be like, okay, these were the kinds of tickets we worked on in the last like week. But that's not what you're really thinking of as a premium support agent. Like you're working on tickets, you're solving these active issues. So I would like, if I were to also redesign it, I would change the role a little bit to be like either, I don't know, concierge is the right word, or like a lead. Also, I hate the word lead. No one really knows what that means, but like maybe it's a new role called like, I think someone called it like an engagement lead, or like some sort of engagement partner, support partner, whose role it is where yes, you troubleshoot tickets, but then a lot of your role is also like, how many support tickets did we open? Like, what is the data behind this relationship with the customer? What are the recent tickets that you open? What were the topics related to that? Like, are there resources that we could, ultimately, can we reduce tickets through like enablement? What are some, like, proactively be able to help? Like, hey, it sounds like, are there any projects coming up that we should be aware of that we can help you on? Things like that. I feel like I rambled and then forgot where I was going.
I mean, what I'm hearing you saying is that the premier support agent or someone in that role should go from more of a reactive role to a more proactive role, where they are basically being this leader inside the company that's going to champion them in engineering and product even in the CSM meetings where they're going to be basically their advocate on the the company side, but then they're also going to be the person that's also making sure that they have all the information they need for the client. So you're basically having this holistic view, and then you can basically champion them. I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing you saying.
Yeah, but I also think that support's role in a business. I think ultimately the way that support can be the best org and the best partner is to allow the company to be proactive in working with the customer, because support has such a wealth of data, right? Support interacts with basically they interact very closely with the product and interface with people who use the product every day. And so usually they're the first people to know if there's a bug. They're the first first to get like a feature request or something like that, or they know like, oh yeah, they're first to give workarounds, but therefore it's also like, oh, I would love it if I didn't have to do it that way. And so yeah, we have so much data. It would be great to be able to use that data. Like ideally, in an ideal world, you pass on like data to engineering, you pass on the data to product, and they can use that information to either drive like their tech debt or like triaging, and then also like and even like hopefully influence the roadmap as well. So yeah, this person would be a great partner in using data from the support side to proactively help the customer be successful, along with other roles that are there for the customer as well.
So, what you're saying here is that, support people really need to be proactive. They need to be this champion. They need to gather all this. I'm curious how companies like you're working for now, how are companies like Retool or Lovable or other these, companies like this changing the scope of support where support agents can be more proactive in creating some of these tools that will help them, basically gather data or create these internal apps so they don't have to rely so much on engineering or product.
So I mean, the ideal, we all want to work towards a proactiveness, but of course the basis of support is it's reactive, right? You receive questions and then you answer them. But I think what we do afterwards, I think, is the more proactive, the part where we can be more proactive. Can you repeat your question on
Sure.
on that?
So, I mean, even 5 years ago, when support would see a problem, they'd have to, escalate to engineering and escalate to the product. Like maybe we had ideas in our head that, man, if we had this tool that could allow us to gather all this information, or it allow us to make these minor changes, it allow us to do our job a lot better. But that required, maybe a lot of coding, or that required you to go through different steps. But with the advent of AI and the way that there's a lot of these new low-code or no-code tools out there, how do you feel that's going to change how support can start to be a little more proactive in their approach to helping the client?
I think I don't think it's as straightforward. Like maybe I'm not understanding the case, but what I'm hearing is like, how can we help the customer and solve their problem in terms of impacting the product? Is that right?
Well, I think that, or is that, that there can be, maybe there's some internal tools that we wish we had, but it requires approval from the engineering team or from product. But we as support people knew, man, if I could just do these things within the product, or if I had these tools available to me, it would make my job go a lot faster. Hence, I could get resolutions to clients a lot faster. Do you feel that? Do you feel that there are now tools available to support people so they don't have to heavily rely on other people in the company to help them be more proactive for clients?
Okay, I understand now. And I'm like, you're describing Retool, which is great. Sorry, I think I was originally understanding your question as like, oh, how can I basically like create like a bug fix PR? But I'm understanding like, could we? What I'm hearing for example, let's say you would needed to make a database change, and it's like it's the database, it's the code, so you would have to rely on engineering. But if we had a tool that just had only like maybe like very very restricted permissions, such that we can just update the database instead of going to engineering, that would be great, right? That's what you're referring to.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's basically Retool, which is fantastic. Thanks for that shout out. But yeah, so and this is what I hear a lot about folks who have used Retool is like what a big use case was like, if you're trying to build this thing, like I said, like maybe you need to update like a table or some resource in your database, some resource, but you like no one wants you to have full access to that resource. So if you build something on top of it that only allows you to impact like a row, or it only allows you to impact a specific portion of that resource, that would be great. And that's what Retool is. But then the problem is, then you have to rely on engineering to build that thing for you, and enter Retool. You can build it like either this engineer can build that and it saves them a lot of time. They don't have to build a lot of stuff from scratch, or like if you're technically savvy, you can build it as well. Yeah.
No, I think tools like this are definitely going to make a big difference, simply because what I've seen certain people do now is that they are creating tools that aggregate data as well. Where in the past they said, man, I wish I could pull data from all the public knowledge articles, all our tickets, all these other sources, and then combine into one, so then I can have all this data right in front of me. So then it's easier to search everything and to see if this question's been asked before. So that's where I'm seeing tools like Retool are making people's support job a lot easier. That's making them more self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And it's basically making these interrupts not as frequent to engineering product. So it's making everyone more productive. So now that you are a company like Retool, how have you seen like, this is going to probably change the way support interacts with the rest of the company now?
Like my support team?
Or just, I'm saying support teams in general, that now they're going to have a lot more of these proactive tools that either they can create or that they can do on their own, like the database or something where they can mine their own sources of data together. Have you personally done that, or have you seen examples of how this has actually empowered more people?
Yeah, so all of basically every dashboard that I use to check to see support health is a Retool app. Either built by past support managers and support leadership or support folks, or by like RevOps and stuff like that. So I think, and I guess this is maybe a question about like the philosophy of like how are we empowering ourselves to get data, and now we are kind of at a time where you can vibe code something to help you out, I guess. I think it's my only the only thing to think about is like you just have to be aware of the scaffolding and like be aware of like so for example, I'm getting married later this year. And my fiance thought it'd be fun to use Lovable to create our wedding website because we didn't like a lot of the templates that existed on current offerings and stuff. So I was like, let's just build it ourselves. We've seen so many wedding websites. There's only like 5 parts to it, right? And so let's go ahead and do it. And so he did this, but there are so many things that you have to think about on a wedding website. First and foremost is the security. Like whatever you put on this public website, you have to make sure that no one else can see it. Like you don't want people to know when and where you're getting married. So the first thing you have to think about is security. So you have to like add in like, oh yeah, thanks for building a site. But like, can you add another layer such that it's a password protected site and you can't get past it? So you have to think about that. And then you have to think about, you have to add in like RSVPs. Like how are people going to RSVP? Well, if you're going to RSVP, you have to have a database that has people's names, their RSVP, what they want to eat. Are they coming to any of your any other events related to this wedding? And so it's a lot. You have to think about a lot of these things. So it's like, yes, I think that these tools out there brings so much more, like the world becomes your oyster, but you also have to realize you have to think about everything. So that is like the cautionary tale.
So this is going to be a very geeky reference here, but this reminds me of what Uncle Ben said to Peter Parker. With great power comes great responsibility. So
yeah, so it's great to be able to have. I don't know if this is becoming like a ritual plug at this point, but it's like having something available that has these kinds of security and things in mind. Like part of me was like, man, I wish we just kind of went for the tool, like the thing that has everything thought out for, because like, you know, like Rachel has like security and stuff like we think about these, because if you're going to make a production ready app, there are just some things that you have to have in place. So it's like, I wonder if that would have been better. But yeah, with great power comes great responsibility, and also like great planning and experience. Like, you know, I'm sure if you're someone who's built multiple wedding websites, like you already have templates. Like you already know what you need to have available and what people are going to use. Do you build it yourself, or do you go find a product that does it for you?
I think that's, you know, everyone thinks something can be super easy, but then you really have to logically think through everything you're doing. You basically have to create a checklist, so then when people start using these websites, they actually realize, oh, a lot of planning actually goes into this. So I think that it's both good and bad that people then actually have to start to think about all these different layers, so that can make them either say, no, forget this, I'm not going to do this, or it really makes them more dedicated and more involved in everything that's going into design.
You know, you get people who are like, I can vibe code this. And it's like, you totally can. I 100% believe in you. And that's great. It's such a fun thing to be able to do and to build like that. But you just make sure you have all the guardrails in place.
Fair enough. So we are wrapping up near the end of our time.
Oh my
and
God,
something I always like to say at the end of episodes, and I'd love to get your thought on this, since you are a support veteran. What I say is that support isn't just a job, it's a mindset. I'd love to hear what does that mean to you?
This makes me think about, so shout out to Support Driven. It's a community of support people. And I say Support Driven is the nicest people with the hottest takes. Which is so interesting. Like you have people like the hottest takes that like, I'm like, oh my God, this was such a passionate presentation, but they're so nice. And I was like, why, how can people be so intense, but so nice? And I wonder if that's kind of what you meant, like what you say, like support as a mindset, like, it's in our DNA to be helpful to people. And I wonder if that's why I thrived, and I really enjoyed being in support and being a frontline like agent, is because like I got to help people, and it was incredibly satisfying to take a spaghetti tangled yarn ball of confusion and then unravel it, understand what they were really asking, and then use it to knit something that was actually pretty and usable and solve their problem. And I think that's kind of the joy that a lot of people find is facing a challenge and then working towards a solution, and just being able to find something really hairy. And the challenges are people related, because you're working with other people on with your product, with your tool, with whatever service you have. And so yeah, that's my thought, is it's helpfulness is in the DNA.
Oh, I thought that's a great way to enter this in this episode. So Rachel, once again, thank you for coming on, and it was great catching up with you.
Yeah, great catching up with you. Thank you so much for this. It's always good to see you and hear your questions, share some thoughts, and it's been an honor to be on your podcast. So thank you, Andre. Appreciate it.
Good night, Rachel.
Thank you. You too. Good night. Bye.